A lot of people claim that Redpill destroys the old-school gentleman code. Is that true? We've gone and break down what gentleman code actually means and how Redpill either supports or destroys it. Gentleman is defined as a man who is a member of the nobility or the landed gentry or a man of good social rank and quality. In other words, a gentleman was someone who was born into a certain lifestyle, which granted him certain privileges. It also meant that he had access to certain resources that allowed him to cultivate certain traits. So, what does being a gentleman entail? First, a gentleman is someone who treats others with respect, regardless of their social status. He is polite and courteous, and he follows the social conventions of his time. Second, a gentleman is someone who is honest and trustworthy. He keeps his word, and he is not involved in gossip or slander. Third, a gentleman is someone who is brave and honorable. He stands up for what he believes in, and he is willing to sacrifice his own interests for the greater good. Fourth, a gentleman is someone who is well educated and cultured. He knows how to carry himself, and he is familiar with the arts and sciences. And fifth, a gentleman is someone who is generous and charitable. He gives back to the community, and he is always willing to help those in need. In essence, the old-school gentleman code was a set of rules and expectations that were designed to ensure that the upper class behaved in a certain way. It was a way to maintain order and decorum in society. But with the advent of the Red Pill, many of these old-school gentleman codes are being challenged. The Red Pill encourages men to be more direct and honest, even if it might offend someone. This can be seen as a threat to the social order, because it challenges the long-held belief that it is better to be polite and agreeable than to speak the truth. The Red Pill also encourages men to be more self-interested. It tells them to put their own needs first and to be willing to step on others in order to get ahead. This is seen as a threat to the social order, because it challenges the long-held belief that it is better to be selfless and altruistic than to be selfish and self-interested. Finally, the Red Pill also encourages men to be more aggressive and confrontational. It tells them that it is sometimes necessary to be willing to fight in order to protect oneself and one's own. This is seen as a threat to the social order, because it challenges the long-held belief that it is better to be peaceful and passive than to be aggressive and confrontational. So, does the Red Pill destroy the old-school gentleman code? On one hand, you could argue that the Red Pill does destroy the old-school gentleman code. Many of the core tenets of the Red Pill are antithetical to the old-school gentleman code. Being rude, being self-interested, and being aggressive are all things that would have been frowned upon in a gentleman. On the other hand, you could argue that the Red Pill actually helps preserve the old-school gentleman code. The reason for this is that the old-school gentleman code was only really followed by the upper class. The lower classes were not afforded the same privileges, and therefore were not expected to follow the same rules. As such, the old-school gentleman code was really only a set of rules for the privileged few. The vast majority of men were free to be as rude, selfish, and aggressive as they wanted. The Red Pill simply levels the playing field by giving all men permission to be as self-interested as they want. It does not expect them to be gentlemen, but it also does not punish them for being gentlemen. Ultimately, it is up to each individual man to decide whether or not he wants to be a gentleman. No one else can force him to be a gentleman, and no one else can take away his gentility. The world is rapidly changing and becoming more individualistic. Men are no longer expected to conform to the rigid social norms of the past. They are free to make their own decisions about how they want to live their lives. For some men, This means that they will choose to be gentlemen because they believe that it is the right thing to do. For other men, it means that they will choose to be more self-interested because they believe that it is in their best interest to do so. And there is nothing wrong with either choice. Gentlemen can still be successful and happy, as can men who are more self-interested. Now, with that said, if you want to learn the secrets to masculine success, click the video on the screen now. For more videos on masculinity, self-improvement and dating, make sure you stay tuned.